Hi guys, welcome back to Linbrov. Lyndon here. And just for those people that are new to this channel, I make videos about self-improvement and personal development and also things that are going on in my life and what I'm doing. And a couple of days ago, I made an update with what I was up to with my business. And essentially, this little excerpt that I'm going to play for you guys is basically an excerpt of a meeting that I just recently had. And I was talking about pricing. And the reason why I started talking about pricing was because one of my contractors that contracts for me, he was asking about quotations, and he was asking that if he quoted correctly for one of his clients, and I was just giving him some advice. And essentially, I was thinking that I might as well put this video up for you guys as well because you guys might find it useful as well. Anyways, I hope you guys like it. If you do, like and subscribe, and you'll see the video in a couple of seconds. Hope you guys enjoy.
Um, Earl, as Sapon is connecting his mic, what question? Do you remember what question you were going to ask me just before the other meeting went to a close?
Oh, there's before there was a client that
Mhm.
was looking for an IT service
Mhm.
for us from
Mhm.
us. They were looking for
Mhm.
what I call this uh for backup services and server configuration services.
Yep. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, they were asking us about our code, and before we didn't have a code for that, and then yeah, I gave them like an estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I based on one of my colleagues rate.
Estimations. Yeah.
Yeah, estimation. Yeah, estimate.
The thing with that is when you don't know what you're going to quote the client at first, because you haven't done it before, you can use like rule of thumb estimations in terms of comparing what other people would price and also what you see online in terms of
Yeah,
what other companies price. But the thing is, they usually have their own systems, so they can track how long it actually takes them. Now,
yeah,
if you're copying their velocity, because the thing is, when you plan out the sprints and you have the burn down chart, you usually have a velocity where your how quickly your team can manage to develop, whatever you need to develop. Right now, if you don't even know what your velocity is, then it's going to be difficult to make those estimations. Yeah, so you have to determine how long does it take you to implement one thing first, and then see how, and then just figure out on the scale of whether or not, um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Because I think I gave them a wrong estimation of the price because they want us to back up all of their old computers to
uh,
yeah. So
just wait.
I think I gave them a, yeah.
Sorry, give me a second. It seems like someone can't hear us. Let me just
Uh,
re-add him. Yeah, sorry. Say that again.
so yeah, I think I gave them the wrong estimate
Yeah,
price,
yeah.
which is supposed to be like 1,000 per computer to back up, but I gave them double the price to that, and then I think they backed out from the deal because they were. I think they got a better deal from someone else, from a
Yeah.
different provider.
Well, that's the thing. So usually that's because, so I was watching this video about pricing. Um,
Yeah.
it's a video done by the future Chris Christo. I think I sent you the link, but I'm not sure if that was the one for that video. Basically, Christo says that like they did a study of how clients and your agencies or the person doing the job, how they sort of swap, exchange value. So clients give money to the agency, and then the agency gives them the service that they need, right? And when there's an exchange that happens, it's based on the fact that the client thinks that the client values the service more than the money, right? And then the agency or the freelancer, he values the money more than the service he's offering, right? So basically, the client thinks that he's winning, and on the agency side, they think they're winning based on the value that they're receiving, right? So the thing is you have to convey that to your client, and make sure that they understand that they're actually getting more for what they're paying for, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, you have to not break the bank and make sure that you're getting what you're working for, right? So so they see the value in that, because they're like, oh, so for example, I'll give you an example. You see a product in store that's retail price, right? It's like, say, $100, right? And then and then you see on sale 50% off, right? And then you tell yourself, oh, it's a bargain, it's 50% off, right? But the thing is, you don't know behind the scenes where the company is actually making a markup of, when it was at full price, they still made the 50% profit, but they also had a buffer. So they actually had, from the actual cost of the product itself, they were making, say, 75%, right? So when it was 50% off, they still make 25% instead of the 75%, but they're still making money, right? So it's like the customer thinks, oh, this is a win, I'm getting a discount. But the company is like, oh, we're making more customers, we're getting more customers, we're still making a profit. So it's a win-win situation. Now,
Yeah.
in the case of your client, you charged up, but the thing is, he thought, oh, what services are you providing me? Like the services that you're providing me, you're charging me for a high price, but I'm not getting that much, right? So one, it could have been a communication issue where you didn't convey the value that you were providing him well enough, because who knows, it could have been well worth, well, that was in pesos, right? So you're charging him in pesos. So you said 1,000. Sorry, you said you charged it 2,000, but then he wanted 1,000, right?
Yeah, I think he was looking for that price range.
Yeah. So the thing is, that's the reason why I asked them, oh, what is your budget first, right? So your constraint is, so there's a couple of techniques. Sometimes there's a saying that, like, the first person that says their price first loses, but Chris Do says, oh, basically, if you say your price first, then you create an anchor. So as long as, if you're well educated in the prices, if you do give a high price point and say, oh, yeah, we charge 2,000, right? And then he might end up going somewhere else, right? And that's the risk you have to take. But the thing is, as well, is that if 2,000 is what you charge, right, then you're going to filter out clients that want to lowball you, because if you have too many clients that says, oh, can you do it for a low price, can you do it for a low price, then you're going to be desperate for that job, and there's so many clients that are going to pay you for what you're worth, right? At the very beginning, you might want to do it for a cheaper price because you want to gain exposure, experience, and so on and so forth. But eventually, once you determine, oh, I'm worth this much, then you charge at that point, and then you say, oh, if you can't afford that price, then you shouldn't work with us, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's only if you have the leverage in terms of, because the thing is, it's supply and demand, right? If you have so many customers, right, then you can raise your prices. If you only have one customer, then that gives them leverage, because it means like they can sort of give you a value and then you're going to be desperate for that because they're your first customer, right? But if you have 10, 20 customers and then they say, oh, can you do it for a low price? And you say, oh, nah, my time is valuable. I've already got customers that are paying me this much. Then even if they leave, your bottom line is not going to be affected because you've got other customers that demand your service anyway, you know? And then when those low quality clients leave, then what will replace them is higher quality clients that they're not going to care as much on the price, but they're going to hire you based on the value that they're getting. And for them, it's like, oh, this person, I'd pay a lot of money just for that person to do work for me because I trust him and I know that he does really good quality work. And,
Yeah.
you know, the amount of return I get is 10 times, right? Yeah, so but the thing is, sometimes you also get clients where there's potential in the future and you see that there's a potential growth, so you want to get into that opportunity where, you know, sure, you want to give them a discount, but then eventually they have to understand that, yeah, we're going to increase our prices later down the track once you start, you know, capitalizing on that growth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a basis by basis, but the thing is, if it's a client that's already big, right, and then they're still trying to lowball you and still trying to say, oh, no, we can't afford that, then you have to sort of go back to the you know, conversation of what value are you getting out of it. So if, say, for example, you say, oh, you charge them $2,000, or sorry, 2,000 pesos, right? And then from that, they earn, you know, tenfold what they're paying you, right? Shouldn't they be paying you for that because, you know, they're earning much, much more on top of the services that you're providing them? If you charge them 2,000 pesos, right? But then from those, you know, server installation, they're only making like 500 pesos, right? And then they're making a loss. Then yeah, that would be reasonable for them to back out because yeah, they're gonna say, oh, if we're gonna pay you this much amount of money, even though it's worth, like, even though that's how much it's worth, but we're gonna end up losing profits in the long term, then obviously they're not gonna go with you. But if they end up making multiples of what you're making, then you can pitch to them and say, oh, since you're making that much anyway, then it should be, you know, the value that I provide you should be worth this much. Yeah. Or you can flip the script and say, oh, if you're not willing to pay for that price, then don't pay me that price, but just pay me a percentage of profits that you make. So if you make, you know, a percent, then I get a percent of that. So if you make a profit margin, then I get a percent of that profit. So there's no risk to him because he only pays you based on his profit, you know. But that's harder to track. And then when the client realizes that, oh, you're actually making more money that way, then they're going to revert back to, you know, the package priced, and they're going to say, oh yeah, can I just pay you from a package point of view? Because if I do it based on percentage of profit, then my expenditure is going to blow out, you know.
Or what I can do is like give them a package deal where they can get a bargain, because if they purchase by service, they might, you know, they might get it in a much higher price.
Like
I'll give you
an example, but I'm still following her up, right? Like this client called me about this real estate website, right? She was asking for, you know, a marketing package as well. And you know how you sent me your marketing packages? I just said, oh, I'll use your marketing pricing, right? And then I'll multiply it by 1.5, and that's our pricing, right? So I said, oh, we will charge you about 240 per month, right? And then she says, oh, that's fairly expensive, and could you do it much cheaper? And then she was saying, I thought you were like a student or something. And then I said, oh, that price is already cheap considering that if you look at other agencies, they'd probably charge you around $800 per month, right? So from that point, you know, we sort of like ended the call, but then she called me back and she was saying, oh, if she sounded interested, and then she was saying, oh, so if I do, you know, get you guys to work for me, then, you know, how long is it going to take develop the website, and then she asks about like the timeline and all that. So she's pretty much happy with the budget, but then now she's asking for timeline, right? So that's the thing. It's like it might seem expensive, but you need to compare it to something else. So like expensive to what, So like $100, $200 is a lot, but that's expensive in what regard, right? If in terms of you're just, they already have a pre-existing logo and you're just placing that logo on their website, yeah, $200 is a lot. But if you're redesigning everything from scratch and all that, then $200 is not that much, So it really depends on what you're offering them. Yeah. So yeah, I'm still getting the hang of this as well, in terms of pricing, but you only get better at your pricing as you get more experience. So if you lost that client, don't worry about it. Just go to the next client and just keep on optimizing your pricing. And the thing is, the key, the rule of thumb, right, is that if you are getting more customers that you can handle, always increase your prices. Because that means your services are in demand. If you're not getting any clients, right, then you don't have the prerogative to charge more because they're in clients, right? They have the leverage, you don't have the leverage. If you start getting more clients that you can handle, you either outsource the work, which is what I'm doing, so to keep the prices cheap, or you increase your prices if you're going to do it yourself, because you only have 40 hours in a week, right? Like in terms of
Yeah.
in terms of work time, right? But you can work more than that, the 80 hours, or you only got 24 hours in a day. Everyone has the same amount of time. So every time you get a new customer wanting something for a cheaper price, that takes away from your time. You need to have personal time as well for other things. So the thing is, the less and less time you have, the more you have to charge for your hours, because in reality, money you can always earn later, right? Time you can't take back. So time is actually worth more than money. Yeah. What do you reckon? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a better, like, better, like, point of view.
Yeah. I've been struggling with pricing as well, so I've been doing a lot of research myself. But this is just like,
Yeah.
You're sort of like a couple of steps behind me in terms of pricing. So I'm just like passing on the knowledge down to you. But the thing is, because if we're gonna, and that's the reason why I always ask you and Sapun and other people in the team, how much do you charge, right? What do you charge? And then from that, I charge a margin on top of that, and then I look at the market rates. How much does other companies charge, right? And then if I'm well below the market rate, then that's the selling point. That's where I go to the client and say, oh, we offer this. It's still high quality. And then when they ask, oh, but that's expensive, and then I compare it to other market rates and I say, oh, it's expensive, but comparing to what other agencies offer, we're fairly cheap.
Yeah.
So we still have high quality. It's just that we're just starting out. That's why we have cheaper prices. Yeah.
So what we need to do is to get more like exposure and more like experience.
Yeah. So the thing is, I was reading this book and it was talking like it took the analogy of an airplane and compared it to business. So the analogy goes like business is like an airplane. So you've got the body, you've got the wings, you've got the the engines, and you've got the fuel and the content inside. Now, what the body is your actual product or service that you're offering, right? The two engines, one of it is sales and one of it is marketing, right? And then your so and then basically the wings is basically the whole, I think that was like the operations of the company or something, right? And getting more sales, marketing are on either side of it. And then you've got the fuel. And what is fuel? The fuel is basically the your cash flow, right? So without any cash flow, you can't you can't fund your business in terms of your marketing or your sales. Like if an airplane doesn't have any fuel, then even if it does have marketing and sales, right, the two engines, it's going nowhere because there's no money flowing into the business to be able to invest in marketing and sales, right? So what
Yeah.
you need to do is you need to create, and the thing is, another thing as well is that if you have like a heavy product where it's a more complicated product and it's going to be, which like signifies like a heavier plane, right? You're going to need more powerful marketing and more powerful sales to sell that product. And also you're going to need to have more cash flow as well. Like for example, say for example, in comparison, in point of view, a bigger plane would be like, Tesla, the company, and a smaller plane would be like a web development company, right? A web development company is much more lightweight than a Tesla, like, an electric car company, right? So an electric car company requires more cash flow and it requires more, marketing and sales comparing to like a web development company, because it's much more lightweight, right? But you still need the fuel, you still need the cash flow. And then so every time your cash flow increases, like there's going to be a certain point where you have the amount of fuel you need, but no more fuel is going to make your progress even further, right? So sometimes you do need to upgrade your engines to larger engines to give you more lift, because they can only burn a certain amount of fuel, or they can only burn a certain amount of, like they can only use a certain amount of cash flow, right? So you need to increase, like at that point, you need to scale your marketing team, your sales team. But then if you increase your marketing and sales team, if you're, if you don't have that infrastructure in place, and if you don't have the team in place to be able to support the incoming clients, then your company's just going to collapse. And that's why for us, I'm not really focusing too much on like marketing for now, because we're getting clients in already, but we need to be able to support them. And that's why we need to build these systems in place and teams in place so that we can manage 10, 20 clients, 30 clients if we end up getting more clients, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I was just like a one-man team, then I started marketing my business, right? Then I wouldn't be able to manage 10, 20 people, right? Because that's just too much. But if I had a team of say 5, 10 people, right, then I can have 50 clients, right?
But you need to have a budget for that, right?
Yeah, you need to have budget for that. So first you start off with one client that gets you cash flow, and then two clients that gets you cash flow. But then you're going to grow, but then after some time you have to stop growing and focus on infrastructure. Because if you grow too quickly and you don't build infrastructure, then you know how like there's building like skyscrapers in China where they just build skyscraper after skyscraper after skyscraper, but then you see those buildings collapse because they don't make it properly and they don't make the foundations properly. Yeah, because they're growing too quickly and they're making things too quickly. They're not planning things enough, right? So you grow for a certain portion. Now you have cash flow and you have excess fuel. So like excess fuel in a plane is useless, right? If you're not going to use it, right? So that's why some planes you see them dump fuel in the air, because it's kind of useless if you're not using it. So at that point, when you do have excess cash on hand, that's when you start investing in the business and growing it and investing in more marketing, investing in more infrastructure, and investing in more sales. And that's when your team grows, and then you have a bigger team to handle the next level of growth. I think those are saying that, yeah. So a team of 10 is managed differently from a team of 50, which is managed differently from a team of 100, and then after that a team of 1,000, and then after that a team of 10,000. So the way things are managed are different based on the amount of people you have in the company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is another conversation that we'll have to talk about later down track anyway. But yeah, so yeah. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question about pricing. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. I
sidetrack.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.